right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Monkey Business. I'm Will, and I'm joined by Carter and Warren. You guys will introduce yourselves later. You'll know them by their voices.
Howdy, howdy.
And we're discussing Little Miss Sunshine, an old film from 2006. I know that's when the two of y'all were still like teeny tiny tots. And well, it's a great movie, and looking forward to discussing it with you guys. That's for sure. Okay, so let's go over what the movie's about. We start off with basically a massively dysfunctional family, the Hoovers. You have Cheryl Hoover, who's the overworked mom on her second marriage. You've got Richard Hoover, the down and out dad, who is selling self help and kind of lifestyle books that can't get off the ground. You've got Dwayne Hoover, who's the son, and he's just moody and he's taking a vow of silence because he's just so in love with Nietzsche. You've got Frank Ginsberg. Frank is the uncle, and he's gay, and he's sad. And he just got out of the hospital for a suicide attempt. Edwin's the grandpa who is heroin addicted and sex addicted and going crazy with his life and doesn't love it anymore because he got kicked out of a hotel. And Olive, who's the main character of the story, is their little daughter, and all she wants to do is go to the Little Miss Sunshine competition, which she gets invited to. Unfortunately, it's 800 miles away, and since this family is so down and out, they are flat broke. They've got no resources, so they drive their awful van that needs to be pushed to start. It has a horn that doesn't work. And then along the way, it's their journey of learning to love each other, or at least have a little bit of a break in between all of the arguments. Characters learn to grow, and one ceases to grow because the granddad dies along the way, and they have to hide his body in the trunk of the car. They have to bribe a cop with some adult content. And then they finally, at the very end, after Olive does her dance for this child beauty pageant, which turned out to be a striptease choreographed by her grandfather. They get kicked out of California in terms of all beauty pageants. They can never come back or compete in any of them ever again. And that's the end of the movie, pretty much. It's a wild ride. And let's dive right into it. All right, what'd you guys like? What you didn't like? Warren, start with you.
Well, for starters, I didn't like that it's a comedy. Get that out of the way.
But just to stop you real quick, sorry to cut you off, but was it funny at least? Did you find it funny?
Yes and no.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I cried once or twice during the film. Stinking love it. But go ahead.
I'll just keep it short and sweet. A lot of the humor I didn't really love, but I did appreciate their surprisingly good character development for it being a comedy.
For as dense as it is, they get a lot in for each character.
Cool. So Will, is this the first time you'd seen it all the way through?
Yeah, I'd seen bits and pieces of it. I knew
Mhm.
the punchline that is the ending, how bizarre it is, how outrageous it is, but how much it makes sense for what all's been happening because throughout the movie they always say, or the granddad's always encouraging the daughter because he's the one who taught her. And there's not like it's not an abuse story for those of you who are listening. It's not anything like that. It's not weird. The granddad's just like, I'm gonna teach you a routine that I've seen these girls do. And he really cherishes her and loves her, but that's all he taught her. And it just the crowd is aghast, but yeah, it's the second time, no, first and a half time I've seen it through. So really love it. Really cherish this film a lot. But go for it.
Solid. First viewing for me also. So first viewing for all of us, essentially. Will's a little like maybe one and a half viewings for him, but I first time around it really didn't work for me. I'm not gonna lie. I couldn't get on board. I thought parts of it were very funny. I liked I liked the van, I think. That's my favorite part of the movie. I love them pushing the van.
The van was great. I think the van really worked for me because I've been in similar situations with car struggles, so it felt very real.
Uh-huh. Car struggles are funny. It's just something that's not utilized too much to its fullest potential, and they kind of did it here. I liked how it's like really the time when some of the only times the family is working together, all, going in the same direction with the same mindset is when they're pushing that van. And so I think that was really well done. I liked the horn's pretty funny when they're going to the hotel towards the end of the movie and he's driving over stuff. That's hilarious. And some of the other comedy worked, some of it didn't. I'm not sure. But overall, I just thought this didn't work very well as a character drama, just because I was really confused as to what they're trying to convey. I think any any reactions, any rebuttal to that?
Well, I will say, as someone who has with his family had to push a car in neutral.
Hmm.
I mean, that really forces you to have the same goal and all work together.
It's pretty great.
It's the first time the family does anything together because and it's I don't know. I think that the first time that they all hold it together is when they have to push the van out of the mechanic shop. And that's the first time that they really start to lay down in their heads, we're going to this competition. This is what's happening next. But it's also kind of subplotted for the dad who wants to get his book deal done, which eventually he finds out gets rejected at the motel, and also where the granddad dies. It's like they make this one leap of faith, and then they're immediately confronted with how terrible everything is again. It is their absolute worst case scenario of a week. No one is successful. No one's doing well. What is it? Uh, Dwayne even says it after he finds out he's colorblind because his dream is to be a pilot. He finds out he's colorblind, and he just has made this vow of silence that he wouldn't break it until he became a pilot. So now that either means he's silent forever or he breaks it because the dream has become unreachable. And he runs out of the car, he can't contain it, he screams out, and then he looks at the family and says divorced, heroin addict, suicide, and just like
Bankrupt.
bankrupt. And he just labels all 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's only one person in the group he doesn't mention at all, and it's Olive. It's the little girl. The whole reason they're driving 800 stinking miles, she's the only one that he can't insult or anything like that. And so the second bonding is when they bring Dwayne back into the family, but only because Olive decides. And Olive doesn't put anything on him. She just goes over to him when he's already pushed away the mom. He's already pushed away the everyone else, and she just gives him a hug. And then he just says, "Okay, okay, I'm coming." And then he comes back and he apologizes and gets in the van. For me, overall, it does work. I like movies where there's this life after the credits at the end, where a lot of movies really want to give you that total, total conclusion vibe. Most action movies fall into that, which isn't a bad thing at all. But a lot of them fall into this category of every single avenue was either concluded or it's a setup for a sequel, not just a life after credits. And in this film, when they're leaving, you know that the uncle isn't cured of his depression and suicide. You know that Dwayne isn't ready to move on after all he's been through. You know that the dad doesn't have any money. You know the mom still has all of her stress and is still smoking. But they accomplished their one goal. They took a little bit and they did it. And they did some unethical stuff to get there. And you know what? Sometimes you gotta fight dirty to get what you want. For your kids. I don't have any.
That's what you took away from this.
Yeah. Just gotta you just gotta hide bodies in the trunk of your car and other things in order to fulfill the dreams of your kids. That's what sacrifice is about.
I will say I did really like how Olive was really the glue that held them all together because everyone had kind of like a special place for her in their hearts. And even though nobody got along and nobody could agree on anything, they all just basically dropped their lives to travel 800 miles to go to this beauty pageant because that's what she wanted to do.
Well, yeah, and it's like at the beginning, Dwayne is so against it. He's just like, just leave me here. I'll stay with Uncle Frank and just leave me. And the mom's like, that's not an option. And then she's like, I'll give you permission for flight school. So he gets bribed in. And at the very end of the movie, we see him say, Mom, you can't let her go up on this stage because they're all objectifying these poor little girls. They're all over sexualizing it. And she's just going to get judged and be last in this competition at a whole. And he's like, I don't want something to happen to her. And he goes from literally not caring what happens to her to just being one of the primary defenders alongside of the dad.
Hmm. Going back to what you said earlier, I'd say that nearly all of my favorite movies, not I don't want to say nearly all, but because I have a lot of favorites, but like so many of my favorites are like that, where as you put it, life after the credits type of movies, where what's being shown in this, 1.5, 2 hour, 2.5 hour segment is just one little flash of life, one little section that's, been recorded on camera and it's being packaged as a story. And stuff has happened before and stuff will happen after. And this is just a piece of their life. And I there's something really really powerful about that because it makes you put tons of things into perspective. Like, if any event that happens is just an event that happens. Stuff's gonna happen before it, stuff will happen again. And I don't think this did that well. I think this is trying to be an epic where you go on this huge journey and then things are tied up in the end. And it really I really didn't buy that these characters were, I don't know, they just weren't fleshed out enough for me.
Strangely enough, I think I agree and disagree with both of you because I agree with Carter that I don't think it really worked as a comedy for me, but I think it did work as a character drama for me because I really liked the growth of all these characters from start to finish. You see so much character development in every single character as they all work towards the same goal.
Here, I'll piggyback off that. I actually
Yeah.
don't see it more. I see it more as family drama than a comedy. I think
I
it
agree.
I
Yeah.
have there's a lot of times where I want to laugh at what's happening, but because what's happening is so awkward and depressing and sad, I'm not going to. Like if I just had it in a bubble and it was about the it's like I don't know, I care about the characters so quickly. And I don't know why. It reminds me a lot of my in-laws and stuff like that. If you guys are ever watching this, I love you all. But we've had so much happen, and that was just Wednesday. Or like that was just Tuesday. Oh yeah, that just happened when I was 6. It's like, oh, it's like SWAT got called to my house. Oh, that was just like when I was 4. I don't remember it. Or like, yeah, Mikey did some crazy stuff, but he's awesome now and he's helping people like that. It's like that full circle of just I am endeared a lot to these characters very quickly. So that's a personal bent on it, but I like that they never hide who any of the characters are. Within the first 5 minutes of meeting them, you know exactly the entirety of who you will know and how they will develop over the course of the movie. And it's just like you can tell the dad's type A, and he is I hate him. Oh my gosh, he's so rude to the daughter. And he's so rude to the family. And then the family shuns him to love the daughter from time to time. And I really enjoy that. And it has funny moments, but I'm with Warren. I see it chiefly as that family drama, not comedy.
Yeah, I also see it as a family drama more so than a comedy. Just with, it's just there's comedy in it. It's funny, which is great. It doesn't have nothing should ever have to ascribe to one genre and one genre only.
I don't know if I agree with
I
that.
well, I I'm not saying there should never be solo genre films, but I'm saying there shouldn't like you can't just every movie shouldn't have to pick a genre and stay in it.
Okay, fair enough. Fair
You can
enough.
blend. Yeah, yeah. I didn't word it correctly the first time. But I that's part of it. Like yeah, I hate the father and I really don't like anyone else in this movie either except for
you
Olive, really. Really. I
don't like stinking
and I feel
Edwin?
like it's
Edwin's
just such like
hilarious.
I know, but like she's she is that one bright spot in the terrible,
Yeah,
terrible family situation she's
she's
growing
the
up in,
only
and
innocent one.
they're all just so bad for her, such bad influences. Even the grandfather. I mean, like, come on.
What do you
Especially the
mean
Like,
even?
grandfather.
Especially the grandfather.
yeah, but like, I mean, like, he's the one that like you're supposed to be sympathetic to. He teaches her the dance, she dedicates it to her, and she wants to sleep with him and her in his hotel instead of the parents. And like,
And she's like, Grandpa, do you love me? Or it's like, am I pretty? She asks him, he's like, oh,
mhm.
you're the prettiest person I've ever met inside and out. And he's so sweet. But then he goes into the room and does drugs.
And then
Like
Odie is on heroin.
it's like uh on
Yeah,
like yeah.
Carter, I agree with that, but I think that's the point.
I understand that's the point, but that's the point for the first part of the movie. Like Will said, you're introduced and you've got everyone figured out within 5 minutes, which
Mhm.
is, it's that's how some movies are written. They're trying to put it all out there and then have them grow from there. And I just don't think they really grow from there at all. I think at the end of the movie, like it's just gonna continue in this terrible family dynamic. I
Yeah,
don't
but I
see
don't
them
think
really. Yeah, I just don't. It's again, it's my first experience with the movie. Watching it again, knowing these characters, knowing the ending, knowing everything, how everything ends, and how the journey has progressed. A second time through, I might like it more. I might like it less. I really couldn't tell you. I think everyone in this movie is a jerk, and I just don't think they. It's like, and yet so many of my favorite movies. are just movies about jerks. I don't know what it is with this one that just didn't click. I think it's because it doesn't present them. It does present them as jerks, but it presents them like they're lovable. They've all got hearts of gold, essentially, right? I don't think they do. I don't think the movie's saying enough about the family dynamic that they have in order for me to give this a pass. I think they're just nasty, nasty people.
Do you think you have to have character growth in a movie for it to be compelling?
Absolutely not.
Yes, I think you do.
I'm with Carter. I don't think you do. I think it's nice. I don't think it's mandatory.
It
However,
depends on the movie. It depends on the movie.
maybe,
I'm just gonna quote Coen Brothers, by the way. So
but I will disagree with Carter. I think there was great character development in this movie,
I
and
think in this movie it was needed, and I don't think it happened.
I think the characters did go on important journeys. So let's start with Frank.
Okay.
From beginning to end, Frank now has essentially a new lease on life. He's reflected a lot and thought about what matters to him, and he's grown a lot in just, I guess, how much he cares for other people, and he now has essentially a purpose for living. Dwayne has a completely different outlook on, I guess, what matters in life. I guess a lot of the characters have different outlook on what matters. That's kind of the story,
Hmm.
the journey that these characters go on. It's changing their priorities on what matter.
Yeah, I think Dwayne and Frank's relationship is the best in the movie. Especially Frank. He's
hands
probably the
down,
best character in the movie. I
easily.
did like how he went,
Yeah.
how he was the one character that had a very good arc, a very good journey. But he went to the pier and he gave his little speech, which was good. And then they just sat around and they're like, yeah, man, just F the system, F all these beauty pageants. Life is a beauty pageant. That's all it is, man. You just gotta do what you love. And it's like they're just throwing out there just so obvious. Like, this is what the movie's about. This is what the movie's about.
I disagree with that entirely.
Really? Okay.
Yes. So I think that scene where they're on the pier is more just Frank letting Dwayne
Yeah.
have his. Dwayne is 16.
Yeah.
He's saying things that a 16-year-old who reads Nietzsche is gonna say.
Uh-huh.
He's just regurgitating this in here. And Frank's just like listen to him and going, yeah, like you know how you don't need your problem solved. You just need someone to listen to you vent. And I think that's more what that scene accomplishes is like, yeah, it's not saying down with the system or down with the patriarchy because at the end of the day, the all of this stuff or whatever, it still happens. It doesn't matter or who cares. This is what this kid is gonna say. And do things need to go through changes? I don't know. But like here, he's just spouting off because he just had the literal worst day of his life. Because him realizing he was colorblind happened about 3 hours earlier. So honestly, he's in a pretty good headspace if that's the only thing he's going through. Like his dream, his because he had a vow size for what 6 months or 9 months, 9 months by the time they're going on this journey. So he had a vow size for 9 months, been training for 9 months with his head all in this one place because he cannot wait to get away from his family. Now he's isolated with his family, and this is the first time he's venting. So he's just gonna say, I don't care about anything, but in a happier tone.
I think he's also just realizing that, like, all the stuff that, I mean, he'd spent how many months or years of his life, basically, his hopes and dreams, dedicated so much of his life to this goal. And then he's kind of just now realizing, number one, that it's not possible anymore. And all those hopes and dreams are just completely dashed. But two, that he was caring about it too much. And ultimately, all the stuff that he cared so much about, whether it's, I mean, he lists all these things like high school, college, all these things. Maybe they're not as important as he had thought of them before. And there are things that matter more than that. But I think also perhaps the greatest example of a character journey is the dad, Richard. See him at the beginning. I mean, everything to him is his, what is it, is it 7 steps or 9 steps for his system?
9.
His 9-step system. And, you've got to do these 9 steps to make sure that you're a winner and you're not a loser. And it's all about these 9 steps and his motivational speeches and everything. And even like at the dinner table, somebody brings up their idea. He's like, all right, how are you applying these 9 steps that you can achieve success in life? And then by the end of the movie, like, he doesn't care about his 9 steps at all because he realizes that that's not how you achieve success. And that's not how you find purpose or success or meaning.
the mom doesn't get to develop a whole lot, I
Not as
think.
much as the others.
Yeah, she kind of like they bring up the smoking thing, and that's just a thing that comes back one other time. And she's like overworked, and she's the only breadwinner or significant breadwinner in the family right now. And because she's tied up all the time, and everybody in the family places all of the burden of the housekeeping as well. Like it's like dinner is always this, and they're like, why is it always this? And she's like, oh, what do you want from me? And then she's the one who makes the snap decision. I'm taking my daughter to the thing, and she accomplishes her goal. Like she takes her daughter there, and then she also leaves it. I guess the only thing that you could even remotely say is how she grows is she surrenders the whole affair to the will of her daughter at the very end, right? And she gradually stands up more to Richard. Like, hallelujah, because like goodness gracious, at the beginning he's like get in the car, and she just gets in and stuff like that, and it's just such a terrible dynamic. And then towards the end, they're starting to listen to each other a little bit more. At the end of the movie, if you really think about it, I don't think that carries over into a brand new 10 plus years of life. But I think it's just you get up that hill, you get to crest. You just get to crest along for a little bit. It's bottom a little time.
So you're saying they're running up that hill.
Yeah, again, I would never apply such a horrible song to a movie as great as this one, but I do I don't know. I think that they bought themselves just a little time. They bought themselves one good memory to keep them going. And it's because every character owned up to the fact that they suck. Like even at the very end, when the decision is made that Olive can't come back and participate in any pageants, she doesn't put up any type of a fight. She's just like, yeah, I guess. Yeah, fair enough.
Well, to circle back to Carter's point, I agree that none of the characters are better people at the end of the movie, but they have changed.
Well, if they're not better and they've changed, does that mean they're worse?
I don't think they're better or worse. Well, maybe
How
some,
have
maybe
they
a couple of them.
changed?
I think a couple of them changed for the better.
Just got horizontal.
Well, Warren's saying that change isn't a horizontal spectrum. It's not that you can only get better or worse. It's that they've just changed in a certain way. Every day you change, and so this was quite a few days for them. So there was some big changes.
3 days, I think.
I don't think any of them are better people, but they've grown together as a family, and they've grown individually, just not necessarily in the ways that would make them better people, if that makes sense.
I think they might have grown together as a family, but I don't think. I think this is just possibly just one of those family bonding trips where you reminisce about it and it's cool and it's funny. But I don't think it's anything that would really improve their family dynamic. I don't see them really because when they're going to be driving home and it's like, oh crap, now what? We did this and then Grandpa died for this. Really? I guess it's almost works, but it's just falls short again a little bit for me.
But like Grandpa would have died at the house anyway, because it was from a heroin overdose.
Yeah.
So it's not like they bought him extra time
Yeah.
or anything. He was still on that clock.
And
Mhm.
I'm going to disagree with that, Carter, because I think this is at least implied that this is essentially like the first big thing they've done together as a family, at least in a very long time.
Okay.
And the fact that they were all able to work together to achieve their, well, goal in quotation marks. I think they're very much closer as a family, and that's long lasting.
Okay. It's fair. A big detriment that was just unfortunate is totally random coincidence. Because on Wednesday, Will, is when you said, I'm going to recommend Little Miss Sunshine. And on Tuesday, I watched possibly the best road trip movie I've ever seen. And
Well, what's the name of it?
it's called Wild Strawberries. It's from 1957. And it's really good. A few less characters, and they're just developed a lot better. It's about a lot more heavier issues, but not told in like a super heavy, like a weighty, serious way. And it just worked a lot more. I thought they're just all the conversations, were just so much more well defined. They suited the story better. They were more interesting. they it was just as funny too, honestly. It just impacted me a lot more than this one did.
To piggyback off that, I think I'm also in the same boat as Carter in that I kind of just see this as a worse version of The Middle. I don't know if you've seen The Middle, but it's a
Yes.
TV show that's
Yeah.
basically it's very similar to this in that it's like this crazy family that keeps getting put in all these ridiculous situations.
Yeah. From the
Um,
Midwest,
it's
United
yeah.
States.
So it's very hard to really appreciate this when there's other media out there that I just see as
Oh
a better
yeah.
version of this.
I do think though that you are all that's fine. I'm glad you guys have awesome stuff that you've been able to love and adhere to in this type of genre. For me, I think the things I love is because like we're in the library, there's a lot of kids who come through, and you really understand like the mind of kids, and you're so involved in, or I find myself being so involved with Olive, and just the subtlety of the ice cream conversation that carries her the whole way through. Like
Subtlety?
no, like the subtlety that how it comes up later on. Like
I
it's
wouldn't
not
call
a
it
big
subtle.
deal. I would, because a lot of adults would have a conversation like that and just tell you to like, oh, I don't care, I'm gonna do this anyway. But your dad is telling you that you're gonna get fat and you're not gonna win a beauty contest that is your whole life.
That's kind of the opposite of
Yeah,
That's
that's
so
not
subtle.
true.
subtle.
No,
Yeah.
no,
I
no,
don't
no.
think anything in
But
this
it
movie is
no,
very
but it
subtle.
comes up later, and it's not.
So it's
It's for the
foreshadowing, it's
adult.
planted, it's a reminiscing theme.
Even later, it's not
It's a
subtle. It's
recurring
very
theme.
in your
My bad.
face.
Yeah.
I think it is trying to show you just how much she thinks about it though, and that it just kind of eats away with her on and on and on.
I see what you did there.
Oh, sorry. But like it's just like kids think about so much and they're not really given a whole lot of credit for it or for being as smart as they actually are. Because kids know when mom and dad fight all the time. Like the stuff I've heard from like just kids through the library or like my niece and nephew is just like, oh, I didn't know that before. That's interesting. And just and how impactful little conversations with kids can be. Like Carter, when your sister came in and we were talking about like just oh, I was like, oh, so you got Carter into Clash Royale and all that stuff. It's like, dude, you should have seen how happy she got that I knew that she had an impact in your life, bro. She was over the moon to know that. And the smile only got bigger when she told me that you also like play video games with her and stuff like that. She was stoked to have you as her, not as her brother, as her friend. Because that matters more to kids. And just like when Miss California tells her, I love ice cream. I do this. And she's like, oh my gosh, one of my heroes does that. And you never know. So if anyone out there is listening, be nice to kids because yeah, the world's not always nice, but you can be nice to that kid. So stop having a bad day for them. All right.
Yeah, I second that wholeheartedly.
That's a much better moral of the story from this. Yeah,
Yep.
that's the lesson that should have been learned.
I really like this scene with Miss California. I'll give you that. That was really good. But the first scene with the ice cream was decent. I liked once they started eating her ice cream and then, they were just encouraging her and helping her like against the dad. It's just like man, the dad is just such a jerk and I don't think he changed at all during the movie. I think he's just so caught up in the hustle culture mindset of trying to sell his books, sell his DVDs. I don't see much change in him. It's just okay. So one thing that Warren you brought up was how this feels like the middle, and yeah, it's just a worse version of the middle, and the middle
Yep.
isn't even like it's not top tier comedy or anything. Like there's like three like really good seasons, and like everything else is like it's just another sitcom.
Oh, the middle
Like
taking strays here.
well, we can talk about that some other time, but this feels like a sitcom to me. It's like it's a 2 hour episode of a sitcom. It's like, oh, this is the one where the family goes to California to participate in the Little Miss Sunshine competition. And it's like the grandpa dies and then they're like, oh, we gotta turn around. It's like, of course they're not gonna turn around. Are you kidding me? This isn't gonna like they're not gonna think twice about going back with their dead grandfather. They're just gonna go and then like they get there and they do all their stuff and they fight and they're like, oh, maybe we shouldn't go on, maybe we should go on. And then She gets up there, she does something totally different, totally, irrelevant to the actual competition, something, they consider irreverent to the competition. And then the entire family gets up and they all dance with her. Like at that point, I was like, are you kidding me, man? Like it's a sitcom, Like this isn't this doesn't really say as much as it thinks it's saying. It's it's funny at times. It's got some decent character moments at times. It really just doesn't feel elevated to the next level where it needs to be. And there are some things in it that do well. I like Steve Carell's character. I like Frank. Like I said, I like the van a lot. Good symbolism there. Just funny imagery there.
When the door comes off.
Yeah, the tours. Yeah, the tour's great. And but they're driving around the parking lot. They're jumping over curbs. Funny sitcom stuff. The horn especially. My gosh.
I agree. It's just I'm getting very distracted because it's cracking me up just watching Will's face. It gets more and more disappointed.
Yeah, and like sometimes that's all you need. Sometimes like, the movie doesn't have to be a perfect, flawless masterpiece to really affect you, and that's great. That's the power of movies that different movies impact different people different ways. It's just that this particular one at this particular time doesn't touch a nerve with me that much.
That's Carter's polite way of saying everyone is entitled to their own wrong opinion.
Not necessarily. I don't think you're wrong if you like this movie. I just think that
All right, tell us how you really feel.
I have. I just did. Go ahead and answer that, Will.
I think you're right in that it fits into the sitcom genre. 100%.
hmm
It is the special episode.
Yeah, it's the season finale.
Yeah, I think it does it well. I think it's less about any type of agenda and more just what would you do for your kid or what would you do for your kids, right? Because after the line where he says divorce to Cheryl, or where Dwayne says you're divorced to Cheryl, you kind of start to see why he has so much distaste, right? It's just he went from one broken family and now this family is broken. You can see why the dad is trying to do like his methods and like this weird supporting act in the first dinner table scene. And while I don't think that they grow a lot in terms of like after the credits roll, they're going to go back to who they are eventually. I do believe that the characters would do everything that the characters do. I am fully on board with the fact they would steal the granddad's body out of the hospital after he's died because they are flat broke and because they just want to get to the beauty pageant on time. I fully believe that. I fully believe that it wouldn't work, but love them running through the parking lot, just carrying this body that's so obviously super light, and just putting it into the trunk and just driving away. And I love when they're breaking through all of it. I think it hits on every trope, but I just find all the characters to be believable in that they would do that, especially for the sake of the kid right now. No one wants to be the bad guy to Olive. They all want to be her superhero or her savior or her friend, or her confidant during the trip, because she's that young innocent person holding everything together. And would it happen in my family? Possible. Would it happen in everybody's family? Possible. You never know what could happen. But like I 100% am behind the fact that this family would make these snap decisions, would make these financial decisions, would make these outrageous acts happen in order to help their kid. And they all have different ideas of what protection is, whether or not it's letting her go there and then not compete, or if it's just not telling her about what suicide means. And then again, we circle back to how amazing Frank's character is and how kind he is to her and all that. And just because she notices immediately, she's like, oh, hey, what happened to your arms? And the dad tries to cover, like, he was in an accident. And then the mom's like, she'll learn eventually is a line that recurs
Yeah.
itself as well. And that's just, she'll learn that life sucks eventually, from time to time. And I love what, Frank says about Proust. He's like, or Prost, or however you say it. He's like, yeah, no, his life was terrible. He wrote a book that no one reads, but is apparently really good. And at the end of his life, he was, according to the movie, he was all about like, wow, but look at how much suffering I did in order to get all this growth. And that brings it back to the light side of Dwayne is like, well, because even Frank's character acknowledges that more bad days are coming. He's like, in 2 years you'll be in high school and all this stuff, and it's like, well, I think about how terrible that's going to be for you. Think about how much growth you can go through. And so I think all the characters are aware that once they get back, life is still going to be awful. They are still going to be bankrupt. They are still going to have an uncle who tried to kill himself. They're still going to have to deal with a dead body. They are still going to have to fix a van. They're still going to have to make dinner. And it's just, yeah, I believe the characters would do this. And because I believe the characters would do this, it fits into whatever family drama this is. I see it as them having funny moments, not necessarily trying to be comedic.
I didn't expect to be in this position, but I kind of feel like a moderator. Carter, do you have a rebuttal to that rebuttal?
Not really. It goes along with what I said. It just works for some people and doesn't really work for others. I kind of believe, I mean, like, yeah, I would, I don't know. I'm not a writer, obviously, and I'm not a scholar on character writing. I don't know, I'm missing the words here, but like, I, I'm never someone who like watches a movie and says, "Oh, I wish this would happen." That would never happen. That takes me out of it. I just like however it's presented is how I view it. And yeah, how it's presented is how it happens, and I buy it. It's just not emotionally impactful at all for me.
For those of you listening, I think I teared up twice during this film. So
When?
I was emotionally attached.
Cool.
When, oh my gosh, when was it? When Paul Dano's character Dwayne breaks down, I break down with him. Like that
Mm-hmm.
hurts, man. And Paul Dano is so good at conveying emotion through his face, and especially the not happy emotions. He's
Mm-hmm.
really good at those ones.
I
Um,
just to pause. I thought that was hilarious. I'm not gonna lie.
really?
Yeah, I didn't.
Oh.
I like when Olive went down and consoled him. I thought that was really sweet. But
Mhm.
like him just running out of the car and screaming, I was like, that's so hilarious. Because he was like breaking down in the car earlier, like,
Okay, yeah, okay.
like because he can't
Yeah,
talk, you know?
I teared up as soon as she hugs him. I'm like,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
because
Fair.
she
Yeah. Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
go
Yeah.
there. The mom even goes like Olive, but it's like my parents were told one thing when my sister and I were like 3 and 1 or whatever it was. My parents said, so we'd like to come to this funeral. It was for a family friend, and they were asking the kids of that because they were an older person, can we bring the kids? And their response to them was, bring the kids to the funeral. They're young, they're small, they're not going to know anything, and they're going to make everybody feel a little bit happier. And that's what my parents did. And so Olive is that little bit of happier. And so I guess it's, yeah, no, yeah, it's not when he screams. Like I'm tense there. I'm like, because I believe that this character could do anything at this time. Like he could actually just never get back on the van. I do believe that throughout the movie, them getting to their destination is in jeopardy. I do believe that from time to time they're not going to get there, and then whatever happens from there is going to become formative. I try not to read into the whole, oh, it will happen because it is X X and X type of movie, right? And in this one, I also think it delivers in that you're hoping they will, but
Yeah.
I'm not on board with the fact that they ultimately will. I'm not on the fact that it's an unavoidable ending to the film,
I was on that boat.
which also won Best Screenplay at the Oscars
Okay.
when it was in. But
It's easy to get me invested in any any movie, and it's easy for me to feel for a challenge someone's trying to overcome or just a goal they're trying to reach. And I, most of the time, like if something is, I don't want to say most of the time, but it's rare that I like take a step back from my investment as an audience member and just view it as a critic and say, I don't know if I buy this. I don't know if this, makes logical sense. I don't know if the characters are acting the way, if the situation is playing out how it actually would. But like I did this, as I already said, like when the grandpa died, they're like, oh no, we're not gonna make it. It's like, of course they're gonna make it.
Yeah, there's never any doubt that
There-
they weren't going to make it.
there's never any actual tension that these people are gonna be stopped. Not because they're unstoppable, but because they're kind of floating down the river that the movie wants them to.
So I think I'm with Will in that I think there were some great moments with the characters where you really feel for them and you really get invested emotionally in the characters. However, I'm also kind of with Carter in that every time you start to feel invested in a character, it immediately reminds you like just how annoying and rude and these characters. Every time you start to care about them, you're reminded how awful these people are.
Yeah.
So it's tough to you're never really fully invested, but they do just enough to keep you. It's compelling enough the journeys that they go on, even though you never like the characters. You don't have to like the characters for there to be good character development.
Yeah. Like there are plenty of movies, that I love that have characters going on terrible, terrible journeys and with awful, awful goals, and they're just evil, evil people, but I care about them for some
100%
reason.
agreed.
Not because
Yeah,
I
like
agree with them, not because I want them to succeed, but because the movie makes me empathize with them.
Yeah, this doesn't really fall into that category though,
Nope.
because it's it's like it's trying to show them as better people when they're not. And so it keeps flipping back and forth.
Yes, because at the end of the movie is presenting it as they have grown, they have changed, they're going to be better, they're going to, solve their family problems to an extent at least. I don't think that it says, everything is 100% fixed as a sitcom would. Sitcom wouldn't always do that, but
There's not really like a happy ending per se.
yes. And it's not presenting itself as a happy ending, but it's presenting itself as a conclusive one, a something that's they've reached a moral standard that they were shooting for towards the beginning of the movie. They've grown as people. That's what the movie is saying has happened, and I don't see that as having happened, unfortunately.
yeah, I'm just on the opposite end of the
And
argument,
that's fair.
which I've already gone over. But like, yeah, it's okay, guys. You'll come around eventually.
I think we've settled, put forth our arguments there. What do we want to cover next?
Was there a way to make it better, do you guys think? Was there a way to connect the characters more? I know you say you guys don't really do that, but I've spoken a lot about how much I enjoy this. You guys have spoken a lot about coulda, woulda, shoulda. So what are you thinking? What did the movie need more of?
This would have made it a totally different movie, but more of Olive's perspective on life and on things happening around her. And I get that that's not what they're going for, but and I'm not critiquing the movie in saying this, but I think I would have really liked a movie from her point of view and, from her just her pure, her joyful, happy-go-lucky, just kind of wants to participate in the beauty pageant, perspective. And then getting there and seeing what it is and then how she reacts to it instead of the family reacting to it, the dad, cringing and the kid, Paul Dano, just, being upset at with it and telling his mom to not let her go, and then them going up on stage and dancing, which just really, really threw me for a loop there, man. I like goofy stuff. Sorry.
It's okay. I think it's awesome. I think it's a great ending. I'm just like,
That's cool.
who cares?
Like,
It's like whatever. It's like what it's like the dad knows that it's over.
uh-huh.
He's like it's just like I'm gonna go do this instead. And then because they're the only ones standing up and clapping. And at the very end of the film, there are only because there's a lot of hypocrisy of what's happening in there, where it's like all these kids are dressed up in this certain way.
Hmm.
But when a girl grows up and kind of embodies what is being mocked a little bit by the film, then she's the bad guy, except for the people who aren't related to her. You have the biker guy, you have Kirby, or is it Kirby, or you have biker guy, you
Kirby,
have Kirby the
the
DJ. Is he
DJ.
that?
Okay. I don't
Yeah,
know his name. The DJ though. The guy that says, I ain't working here next year. These people are crazy.
yeah, the DJ who hates everyone he works with because he looks at the CD and say, "Hey, where'd you get this music?" And so like that's one of your inklings of like whatever it is, and it's like "Oh, you're the best growler in the world," like the grandpa says to her, while they're just like having fun in the room, and you're like, "Oh, that's a cute thing," and then you realize later on that there were actually all these little clues happening. And then the final person who likes the performance is Miss California. She is actually clapping along the entire time, fully supporting Olive, and she actually claps at the very end as well. And it's funny because like the most high profile person in the room gives her seal of approval to this family who just basically slandered everything that her crown and all that stands for. And she's like, I don't care. They had fun. Whatever. Glad to hear it. I can also understand that it is, bro, it's an odd movie. It's a little strange.
It's not
It's
it's not
it's
that strange though, is
well,
it?
no, it's okay because it sounds like you didn't understand it.
The
So I just want to
last
give you the benefit of the doubt.
the last 20 minutes are strange, but everything else is pretty basic.
Signs and it's like, do you need anything else? Yeah, you do have a nearby funeral service. And then the funeral service shows. I was like, yes, he did,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Never be afraid to ask for directions. That's what that scene is telling you. But also at the end of the movie, they are terrible people because they run through the gate again, and there's no way they fixed that gate in time. By the way, that they plowed through. Oh no, wait, that was another one. Nah.
Well, to circle back to your question about what would make the movie better, I think it would have worked a lot better for me, and it sounds like for Carter as well, if the journey these characters go on, instead of just growing together as a family, if each of these characters somehow became better people because of it, if they truly learned the lessons from everything they've been doing. I think if somehow that was tied in, it would have had a much more satisfying ending.
Do you think that would have made it more or less like a sitcom?
I
Probably
think it would have
more.
made it worse.
Yeah.
I think it would have been better off that way.
I don't know if that it might have worked. It might have not. I don't know. I just think like the movie already thinks that that happened. The directors and writers already think that they're doing that. I feel.
I don't think
You
so.
don't think so?
No, I don't, because they are at like the last 5 minutes of the film, they break rules like three times. And
Yeah,
so it's just like, nah, the family's still a bunch of jerks. They've had a good memory. I I don't think it's trying to be this. Look at how amazing these characters solved all, like suicide can be solved like this, Nietzsche can be solved like this, smoking can be solved like this, and being a type A personality can be solved like this. I don't think it's saying any of that because a lot of those peoples do still have a bunch of their faults at the very end. Even Frank's character, he opens the newspaper and then he sees the other guy who took his award that he wanted, closes the newspaper and is visibly upset. And that's why he's very fine getting air with Dwayne. And Dwayne is still upset about everything that goes on. But for like one little second, for like one little second, they're happy together. And it's not that it's the trigger for a better life. It's that this is the outlier event
and
in their
it's
lives.
because of Olive that they've been
Yeah.
brought together again, which works and is the theme of the movie. It's just it really needed more of her, honestly. I think.
Mhm.
I don't
I think that's
I
fair.
don't need to
Yeah.
see, Paul Dano and Tony Collette reacting, and I don't need to see Greg Kinnear, whatever the dad's name is, cringing at the competition. I just
I
I'd
agree.
like to
Yeah.
see how she reacts. I'd like to see how she thinks. Is she nervous? Not, Paul Dano saying she's going to lose, and then she's going to be nervous, and then does she think she's going to be laughed at? Does she think she's going to lose? Has she been blindsided and is like, wow, this isn't what I came for, and then decides to go and do it anyway?
To bounce back to Will's point, though, for a second, I think he's right that I don't think the writers did think that the characters had like learned their lessons or become better people, or whatever. Because I think if that had been the case, then it would have been like a happy ending. She wins the contest, and they all drive home happily ever after. I think this is very clear that that's not the case because of how it ends.
Have you guys seen Donnie Darko?
No.
Okay,
I've heard that it's like a cult classic though.
it is. That's a weird movie. Not like not
Yeah.
like crazy weird, but like
Weird enough.
it's weird enough. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing too, just a little bit. But I really like it. Ain't perfect, but it's good. But like they cast the lady who runs the competition and is like, nope, you're 5 minutes late. You can't come in. You know, like she plays like the same exact role in Donnie Darko. It's funny. It's like she's been typecast as the Sparkle Motion mom. It's
And Paul
that
Dano
that
hasn't
was
been
quite funny.
typecast.
No, he has. It's just
Paul
quite funny.
Dano.
It's just like it was really funny, like how like she showed up and I was like, oh look, it's Sparkle Motion Mom, and she's like playing Sparkle Motion Mom again. It's like that made me laugh unintentionally.
But I think you get inklings of Olive from time to time. I know that they're not as pronounced as they probably should have been. The movie's screen time is only like an hour and a half. It's 140 including credits. It's stinking short. And I definitely think they could have dived into it more, but you see how uncomfortable Olive is when the guy's singing the Star Spangled Banner like 2 inches from her face. She's like, hey, what's this guy doing? She has hesitation when she's getting dressed in her outfit before her final show. And like all of that super excitement at the beginning has now kind of bled away just a little bit.
Mhm.
I do think for me the movie is saved in that respect, knowing that it's only been this is the afternoon of the third day of the film. So she's only really had 2 full days to process everything that's going on, and she's dealing with a lot of other stuff right now. And as a 6 or 7 year old kid, because like my niece is what she's 5.5, and she just had to process her grandmother's death, and she didn't really put it together. She's like, so grandma's not going to be home when we go home, and all that stuff. And they're like, no. And she's like, okay, I don't know what that really means for me, but I can see my parents are upset by this. And you can just kind of see cogs turning. And so I guess, yeah. Oh, I teared up also when Paul Dano tells Olive to go hug the mom. That was the other time. So whenever Olive hugs one, me, just
That was great.
really touching. But yeah, it's like, it's go hug mom. It's like, yeah.
I really liked his vow of silence and how they used that comedically, and he just carries his notepad around because he could have just been the stereotypical cliche angsty teen who reads Nietzsche in a sitcom, but the vow of silence kind of took it to the next level.
It added a lot.
It
Yeah.
it did, yeah.
I love when
And then he screams, and
Frank
it's
sits
hilarious.
down.
Yeah,
Frank sits down. He's like, is that Nietzsche? It just on his whole wall is just one big
yeah.
minimalist mural to Nietzsche. Oh, and just throughout the entire thing, there's no one changes clothes, really, like at all. Everyone wears the same stick thing. Frank wears the same stinking thing the entire time. Paul Dano has 2 shirts. The first one, I have no idea who the political figure on it is. It might be Nietzsche, and I'm just ignorant or whatever. And then the second one says, Jesus was wrong.
Wrong, yeah.
And it's just like it's so angsty teen, but it's
Yeah.
pulled off so well. But like the book of like, what does that mean? But then again, Frank's character being the number one character in the movie, when he says he gives it to him straight, he treats him like an adult, and he says it means you can't fly fighter jets, or it's like you can't be colorblind and fly jets, and he just lets him know right there. But yeah, no, definitely more Olive could have been in the film. Wholeheartedly agree there. I'm sorry if I'm getting very defensive. I do love this
No,
film.
you're good. Please, no. We need to fight. That's
That's
what makes this stuff
that's what
interesting.
this is for.
Yeah.
Yep.
Movie watching experiences are strange.
Yes,
Just
they
like
are. Just like
Life is
life.
strange.
life is strange.
I have a few positives about this movie. I do. I just overall, it just didn't hit. It just didn't click, unfortunately. But I really like how they critiqued beauty pageants in general without being it super dour and super mean and just like in a real world critique needs to be dour and mean, but you can also do it like this through a movie where you just show it and you just like say like just showing it is enough to be super critical of it and just saying how and just seeing how ugly and disgusting the whole affair is and but they don't drive it into the ground in a depressing sort of way. They kind of rise above it. And I don't think a dance party at the end was the perfect way to critique it, but yeah, I like that they were positive. I like that the movie stays positive.
Warren, anything to add to that?
Carter, what else you got?
Not much. that's one
Oh,
thing
that
that
was it.
hurts
Oh,
the
wait,
score.
I thought you had a lot of
No, he said he had a few,
I
and
said
it
I had
turned
a
out to be
few.
one.
only
I didn't
one?
mean a few more. I
One?
mean, I've been
Okay,
praising it
fair
a little
enough.
bit,
Yeah, Van.
hopefully.
Yeah,
I'm
the
not, I
van.
don't hate this movie at all.
All right.
I
It's
just like,
weird that you don't like it though. Kind of crazy, bro.
I know,
You
yeah.
like every movie.
I do.
Well, one
I
thing
like
I
this
think
one.
this has been mentioned before, but one thing that I really liked was Frank and Dwayne, how they were both the perfect person for each other at the perfect time. And there are two people who desperately needed somebody to come alongside of them and help them and guide them in different ways. And they were both that person for each other. And I thought that was quite cool, that storyline.
Yeah, it's like the question that Dwayne asks Frank is just, "Will you kill yourself tonight?" And Frank just gives a "not on your watch," like for your sake. He's like, I'm not gonna do that to a kid, you know, which in his own way is very sweet. And yeah, no, I think, bro, Steve Carell, Paul Dano, we need more movies with the two of them. They got some good chemistry, man.
Carell gives a very restrained performance for him in this
Yeah,
movie, and
I
I
was
like that.
surprised by,
Yeah,
I was
he's still
expecting him to be
funny. Sorry.
much goofier in this movie.
Okay.
But I liked that he was not.
Okay.
Yeah,
Same. Yeah.
really enjoyed him. Dude. Sorry, I tuned up 3 times. Because the third time is when, who is it? The dad, Richard, is dealing with the fact that his book deal for the 9 pillars, that is his dream, just failed. And they're in the van together, and the granddad, Edwin, just comes up to the front and he's like, "Hey man," he puts his hand on his and he just goes, "Hey, I'm really proud of you. You went out, you did something on your own. That's more than most people would do. And I'm speaking about myself here." And to which Richard just goes, "Thanks, Dad." And he's like brazen, resolved, like I'm on a mission. And then the grandpa just puts his hand on the shoulder of the dad and just like gives him that reassuring dad grip. And that's when you see a little crack in the facade that Richard gives out, and I thought that was just a really good little how the majority of guys deal with things. It's just like, get through it, and then you give them a like quick bro hug, and it's like, "Oh, I needed that, thanks, man." And I don't know, I thought that was a really tender moment that a dad would have with his son, even if he's crazed and drug addled and one track minded on women. It was a really touching and tender scene that I found believable from the characters. So I guess, with the grandpa and that connection right there that they had, and just the believability of the characters, how the story wraps up. I've covered everything in how I view it, how I like it or don't like it, or mostly like it. Do you guys have anything else you want to add, or should we get into the nitty gritty?
What do you guys think is the emotional core of this movie? Do you think it has one? Do you think it has too many? Do you think it has one that isn't strong enough? What is the one thing that pulls it together for you guys?
What do you mean by emotional core? Because I kind of see it as two cores depending on how you define it.
Okay, what are they?
So I think if you mean emotional cores and like a character, it's definitely Olive because everything kind of runs through her and everyone's relationship with her, and that's the motivation for all these characters doing all this stuff. But I think in terms of the emotional core of the journey of the movie, it's about them becoming a family instead of just people who are a family. If that makes sense, that I might not have explained that very well. They start out as technically a family, but they're not together as a family. Like they're just a family because I mean they're all there. They just exist. But the journey is about them growing together as a family.
From becoming family by blood to family by choice.
Kind of, yes.
Yeah.
Is that what you meant by emotional core?
Sure. Any thoughts, Will?
Nah, I really do think it is a family drama style of film, of just like, how is A family going to react to B scenario to get C reaction, and the journey they're in. I don't think it follows, or when I watch this movie, I don't find it falling into any types of flow charts that I've seen in other things before. Or it's like, I know you guys have made comparisons to it. I watch a lot of TV, so I don't really know. I've seen like clips from the middle. I have no idea what you guys are talking about at all. So if it's really like this, I might love it. But essentially, I think it's unique in what it's trying to be and what it's trying to tell set forth, even though it is just yeah, it's a family film.
All right, new moral that you learned from watching this movie: you need to go binge the middle.
I don't think that's a moral.
Just don't
And I
watch the
don't think
last
it's what I'm
season.
gonna do. Is that the show where like the kids are in the golf cart and it's sinking down into like no or it's like they're all in a golf cart and then they just kind of think it was like a meme for a while. I don't know,
I
man.
don't
I'm a
know.
boomer. It's
I don't think
fine.
there's any memes about it. It's just they live in Iowa.
Somewhere in the
Mm.
Midwest.
It's because it's called the middle because they're middle class and they're middle of the United States. So
But anyways, back
they're in the
back
middle. Yeah.
back to the point. Carter, what would you say is the emotional core of the movie?
As much as I want to say it's Olive, I really can't. I don't think that she gets as far as she needed to. I agree that she's the kind of the driving force behind the plot because all the characters, all her family around her is just trying to make her happy, trying to get there so she can participate. But I'm weirdly enough, I'm gonna say the van. I just I really like the van. I don't know.
The
I think
emotional core?
Can you
yeah,
elaborate on that?
I think it's a good metaphor. I think it's just funny of how old it is and how they're hanging on to it. They're gonna use it. It fits all of them. They, you know, I opened pretty much with saying I like how that's that's when they're united. That's when they have the same mindset. That's when they put their conflicts and maybe even their hatred of each other aside and they've got to get this van off the ground, you know. They've got to get it moving. It's a really cool set piece. It's really cool imagery. They use some good tracking shots when they're pushing it.
A metaphor?
Yeah,
Definitely. A
yeah.
symbol? Sure.
hmm
The emotional core?
I
I
just
I see what
I
you're
mean I don't
saying.
yeah.
Yeah, I hear
I
you,
I
but
get that that's a little wonky, a little confusing. That's what I got out of it, you know. I didn't really feel anything else for any of the characters.
I 100% agree that Olive is the center of the film, right? It's how everyone's world for 3 days revolves around getting Olive to the hotel for the child beauty pageant, right? But if it's who I'm endeared to most, and if it's who I'm emotionally attached to the most, it's Frank. I
Yeah.
think I think that he's the emotional core for me. I get what you're saying about the van. I don't know if I'm thick or something, but like probably because to me, I just went, oh, Van funny, haha. It's like, oh, Van breakdown, very cool. I never really related it to the family. I always just saw it as like, of course, they have a busted down van. They're bankrupt. Like they're not gonna have something nice. It's like the gear doesn't work. The door falls off. It breaks really poorly and all this stuff. It was like so. For me, it was more of of course it does, but I can 100% agree that it is a terrific metaphor in retrospect of it. I just didn't get that from the initial viewing experience.
Yeah, you don't have to, but like one thing, like this wouldn't be the movie it is if they were driving a Ford E350, you
oh,
know?
definitely.
Like it,
Yeah.
you know, you need that yellow, you need that good poster art, you know?
It's the best part of the movie.
Yep.
What? Yeah. Honestly, I do love the tracking shots as they're like running to get into it and everything.
hmm
It's just like, and dude, when they do the drive-by pickup of Olive because they left her at the gas station, I
Uh-huh.
thought that was it's the funniest thing in the world. Because, and it's just these people look up, see a van whip in, grab a kid who's chasing after the van,
Uh-huh.
put her in
Yeah.
the van, and they just go, huh?
I thought there
I
was
ain't
gonna
gonna
be
mind
some
my
people that like I
business.
thought they were gonna call 911 and say they kidnapped this kid or something.
Yeah. Well,
Oh,
you
the
know,
cop.
you know what that reminded me of?
Yeah.
A certain Michael Bay film. We don't stop.
Ambulatons, a terrible film. Please don't watch it.
Anyways, go ahead, Carter.
We'll talk about ambulance at the end of the year.
Oh boy.
We do our
Oh, end of your review. Cool.
we do our top two of the year.
Top 100 of the year?
Dude, top one of the year. I don't have anything else that's come close
Wait, Carter,
yet.
were
Yeah,
you
true.
saying something about I forget what you were saying.
The cop.
The
Like
cop.
I
Ugh.
think when he pulled over, I think that was a blown comedy moment right there. I think
Agreed.
like he could have searched it and like been just like he could have gone through the remains of the grandfather and like not noticed. That'd been so funny, but instead he just finds dirty magazines and he's like and just sits there for like 5 minutes looking at the magazines. And
Yeah,
it's like, oh my
it's
gosh, put him back, go
yeah.
away, you know?
It's just like he's such a sleazeball of a character.
Yeah,
Like you just are like
he's
this
such
guy.
a
Like you
sussy
just
baka.
you just want him like away from your wife, your kids, your uncle. Like you want him away from everything.
He's got them
He's
cop shorts, cop
oh
helmet.
dude, yeah.
Oh no.
I know. I thought he was very successful at being very disgusting. Yeah, I totally thought it would have been a lot funny
That
if it
whole
was like
thing was very unnecessary. It did nothing for the.
yeah, I didn't know that scene, so I was kind of hoping I was like, yo, they're getting busted for child abduction. It's gonna get searched. They're gonna find the body, and it's gonna just go insane from it. Like they're gonna be in prison. They're gonna have to do a prison break or something insane is gonna have to happen.
That would have
And
been a situation where I would
yeah,
genuinely have been concerned for them and would genuinely have thought, how are they going to get out of this, you
yeah.
know? And instead of like them like being like, oh, I don't know, I think we should go back. I don't know.
All right, should we
Yeah, what else you guys got? Anything? We're wrapping it up.
go
Warren,
in
you got
final thoughts
anything?
and ratings one at a
Yeah,
time?
I'll
All
go
right.
last.
Well, I feel like you
All
should
right.
go first because
It's only gonna get worse. Okay.
Mike was your pick,
All
and
right.
like we all kind of know.
I shall after my talk, I shall not talk until I am allowed to, so that you all may have complete and utter floor space.
I
So ignore any
I
facial expressions that I
Okay,
have.
okay.
should who picks the movie get to go first or
That's
should they go
Yeah, yeah.
last?
Well,
I
I
think
mean,
they
I
should go
get the
Good
first,
last.
question.
so I'll go
You think
first.
last? Okay.
Do you guys not think last? Do you have
I
any
don't have any preference.
really? You sure? Because
Audience,
I
we
don't
do
want to
this
just
all
say
the
they should go
time.
last and you guys
We're
just be
so
like, oh yeah,
good.
they should go last.
No,
Or
I'll just go first. Why not?
I mean, I think you should go last.
Okay, I'll go last.
I'll go last.
Going last.
Right.
Audience, what do you think? Also, Coca-Cola, if you're listening, sponsor us.
All right, Carter, you want to go first? You want me to go first?
Or McDonald's.
Don't care. It's up to you, Warren. Do you want me to go?
Go for it.
Okay. Well, I I never regret watching a movie. I mean, that's not necessarily true, but they're just awesome. They went out and they had an idea and they had a really cool van and they had a decent way to try to, pick apart family dynamics and pick apart how awful contests are and the constant need to be a winner. And they stumbled a little bit and I didn't really find it that eye-opening, but they went out and they made a movie and it was good. It was enjoyable. It was pretty funny. I'm definitely disappointed and I may go higher if I see it again. I may go lower if I see it again. I have no clue, but I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10.
All right. So overall, I was pretty conflicted on this movie because I was genuinely shocked with how much I enjoyed the character development. And I thought the character development was really well done in this movie. However, and full disclosure, I'm not a big fan of comedies to begin with. And some of the comedy in this movie worked, but most of it I was not a big fan of. I think a lot of the characters had good journeys that could have been better. Overall, I think it was a movie that could have been a lot better with different plot decisions. Yeah, I'll keep it there. Like I already said, it's for me, it's kind of like a worse version of other especially TV shows like The Middle or Modern Family or whatever. It just feels like a worse version of that. So it's hard for me to rate it very high. So I have it a 5.9 out of 10.
Go watch Wild Strawberries, everyone. It's free on YouTube.
Also, to kind of go against what Carter says, as somebody who's trying to hit 100 movies for this year, it is very common to regret watching a movie. All right, with that being said, Will, the floor is yours. Take it away.
So I think it's pretty apparent that I really love this film. I'm also probably a little biased towards liking it because my mom likes it, and I just tend to really like movies that my mom likes, even though she didn't. She was like kind of on everything everywhere all at once. But that's an amazing movie. 10 out of stinking 10.
Fine. And that's cool. That's awesome. That's what
Mhm.
movies are about.
But I see a lot of just bizarre family happenings. that have happened in my family, my extended family. Like, oh my gosh, like the stories you can tell. And like this is a weekend that you laugh about in high school. Like, do you remember that time where we went down to the stupid pageant and I danced like a stripper and grandpa died and I found out what suicide was? It's just like a crazy weekend for Olive. Like she just learns everything because she's like, eventually she'll learn. I find the characters very believable. I find the story very compelling. I find the love very heartwarming. I find the direction the movie takes very simple, very elegant, very straightforward. I find that the characters who don't develop as much as they need to, I don't find that I want them to develop more because anything beyond what they really go through in that little weekend would almost be for me a little bit too hard to believe. And it's kind of like the Romeo and Juliet principle. You can't truly fall in love with someone after 3 stinking days. And so it's like, of course, what happens with this family might not stick into forever, but it's good enough that they can ride a high for a little bit. And that might be a blessing in of itself for them. Overall, I give it like a 9.5 out of 10. I really enjoy this movie. I think it has, for me, it scratches an itch that I didn't know I enjoyed. And that's always what makes a really good film for me is when I see something that I didn't know I would like and then I liked it. How original it is, how unique it is, and how a movie ends matters a whole lot to me. If you're a great first second act and your third act sucks, it's really hard for me to give it a good rating. But this one, I think it delivers at the very end of just what parents would do for their kids and seeing what my parents have done, what their parents did, and all that. It's like, you know what? Yeah, I think they'd let loose a little bit and renege on their dreams just for the sake of their kids for one weekend. The development's good. The characters are good. Yeah. Probably not 9.5, 9. Solid 9 out of 10. Probably will only go up for me on rewatches because I'll start to pick out more things, like listening to background tracks, if you can really spot more of what Grandpa's teaching Olive or how Frank's doing, or like how attentive the characters are, and or just how the movie's shot in general. And oh yeah, it's just I think it's always awesome to give hope to little kids and to encourage imagination and growth in little kids. And I know neither of you are saying the opposite of that at all in any way, shape, or form. But I think that this movie does put Olive into that position of being built up by the family, of being, you know,
Just bringing up another controversial point here at the end.
really?
Yeah, I
That's
think I think we really do need more movies like that that are just hopeful and about childhood.
well, I agree with the point you're making, Will, but I don't know if this movie does that.
Yeah, I don't know if it does it.
Wait, what was I saying?
It does it for you and it doesn't do it for us, maybe.
Dude,
Maybe.
I do think the whole family tries to build her up in the only way they know how. Like it's terrible, it's awful, it's not that moral, but they're doing what they think is best for her at the very end. They're just spending time with their kid. And I think that's really awesome. I think that's a great little message of just, oh. Maybe I'm spouting off stuff because I'm whimsical about the entire film, but yeah, 9 out of 10, and I love it.
Fair enough.
Awesome.
Any final closing thoughts before we send this off into the ether of space?
Oh yeah, Warren's got next pick next time, so prepare for me to not like the film.
Do you know yet, Warren? Do you want to announce it or do you want to
Not getting
keep
announced it
thinking?
yet because I
You're not
have
sure.
two options that I'm weighing, but
Okay.
How about we just watch both?
I'll decide within the next couple of days.
And then you surprise us.
He's deciding between Captain Marvel and She-Hulk. He's not sure which he wants to make us watch.
Bro, I'm not spending 6 weeks
I might even
on a week by week. Just if you suggested in 6 weeks, fine.
You know what? Okay. My next pick will be dot
You don't
dot.
have wait,
Drum roll,
wait.
please.
I'm ready.
You don't have to give it away
Okay.
if you don't want to. We don't want to pressure you into it. Do you
No,
want to?
I
Get
just I'm just
pressured.
saying so that so if I do decide before this releases, I could, slap it in and it could be right at the
Okay.
end of the episode.
Oh, go for it. Go for it. Yep.
All right.
Sounds
wanna-
good.
You want to wrap this up?
You're just gonna leave me hanging like that, bro?
Well,
All right.
Is there anything else you want to say before we wrap it up?
No, apparently I'm wrong. You guys are right. Sad world. All right, guys. Well, that's probably it from all of us. Remember, your friends have terrible opinions on movies. You're the only one who's ever going to be right. Watch what you love. Don't watch what you don't love. There are such things as bad movies. If you hate it, turn it off. Blah, blah, blah. Stay safe. Tune in next time. You know the drill.
As always, thanks for listening. See you next time.
Yeah, what he said. Carter, anything to add?
Thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you liked the movie. Hope you keep watching movies, keep liking more. And until next time, we are the Monkeys, and talking about movies is our business.
And the pick for next episode will be Season 1 of FX's Legion.